What's up, YouTube? Back with another video. I wanted to go over this topic. Discipline is not real. So, what do I mean by discipline is not real? Once you start to basically expand your consciousness, expand your awareness, and start kind of breaking down the constructs and the ideologies of everything, you will start to understand that discipline is not really a real thing, or disciplining yourself towards a certain goal is not really real. And what I would actually say is that you should be disciplining yourself to be your authentic self, because through being your authentic self is where the magic is going to actually happen. So once you understand that, once you know what discipline actually is, you have to actually be careful with it, right? Because when you see that discipline is what you use to create structures, you have to be aware to understand that the discipline that you're applying to yourself to build a certain type of matter is what you're going to become, right? So so all in all, when you're creating a certain type of discipline, you have to be aware, right? You have to be aware because you're basically moving towards that specific thing. And if you don't understand that that specific thing is not who you're intended to be, you're going to become that materialized thing. And you're going to have to eventually learn how to break that thing to rebuild yourself to become more of your authentic self. Now, why do I say that discipline is not real? Because discipline is only applied to something that you don't know. Get it? Discipline is only applied to something you don't know. And when you're living in your authentic self, it's somebody that you do know. So there's nothing to kind of worry about when you're living in the energy of who you're called to be, right? This is where everything starts from and the magic flows from. But I will say this to people is that I have to be careful because I do understand that there are different realms and there are different things that people are going to have to play out until they understand that these characters that I'm trying to play is not who I really want to be. So eventually it's going to flow back to yourself. So I get it. But you have to understand that there is a realm where you are beautiful and you are made to be who you are called to be, right? There's no discipline in it. There's no rules inside of it. There's no structures because you're living in the place that you're intended to be. A lot of times when you're playing all these different characters and you're trying to be disciplined towards these other characters, you're living in a world and rules that don't apply to you. But what if I told you that there is a world where, you can be who you're supposed to be, right? With no judgment. What if I told you that there's a world where you can eat whatever you want to eat without gaining a certain specific type of weight, right? There's a world where you're living the type of job that you want to live. I mean, you're basically living the job that you want to work, right? But the thing is that you have to believe inside of yourself that that world is meant for you. Because if you don't have the faith inside of who you are and believe inside of yourself that you are good enough to live that life, it's not going to come true. That's why a lot of times you have to live these other characters and get tired of these other characters until you take off the mask and be okay to live in the true self. Sorry guys, to live in the authentic version of yourself. But let's say, for instance, I'm going to stay on the example of like food, right? Where there's a world where you can eat whatever you want to eat, right? A lot of people would call me crazy, but the thing is that everything's based on perspective, right? And a lot of what you see in this world is based off of emotional responses as well. So let's say, for instance, when you're looking at a certain food or things like that, and you're constantly saying that it's bad for you, you have to understand that the way that you view that food, and when you eat that food, now you're giving your body a certain response, right? Your body's going to generate a certain response, because once you understand that your body is basically a magical pot, right? And you have to understand that you have to change the perspective of your own magical pot. So anything that comes within your magical pot, you have to understand that you can change that. And once you give people the power to call whatever your magical pot is, then the game is over, right? So eventually you have to understand that the greatest discipline is learning how to be your authentic self with no judgment and to love yourself. That's why, the first thing that you will go through on this journey is usually a healing journey and a loving journey to love yourself better. But I hope you love this message. Peace and love.